Welcome to Two Sisters Podcast with your hosts, Christy and Melissa, who are real sisters bringing you real talk about life and faith through humor, insight, and community. Now, let's get into this week's episode.
What's up?
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear us? Hey, girl. How are you?
Yes. Good. How are you? I'm trying to make sure that I look all right in this mirror. I feel better.
You look good. You look good, girl. You look good. You look fabulous, honey. So
Hi,
what's up,
y'all.
Nicole? What's up, Michelle?
How are you? I'm
How you
good.
doing?
I'm good.
Thank you for being here on Two Sisters Podcast.
Welcome to Two Sisters Podcast.
We are so excited to have you here talking about, just trauma and triggers, basically. So this is
Serious stuff.
It's a heavy subject to talk about. And so we are so privileged and honored and happy that you came boldly to share your knowledge and expertise with us.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, please tell the people who you are.
Who is Michelle?
Hello. Hi. My name is Michelle Johnson, and I am, who am I? I am a young woman that has gone through a few things in life, and because of the grace of God, I'm allowed to live and be able to be a witness that healing is possible, and it is also continual, and it is for the rest of your life. But I am a voice. I'm a voice of healing, one of the voices, because I believe that everyone has their own voice where they can speak about certain types of healing. So I'm just one of the many voices that I feel like have been chosen in this time.
I do too. So with that being said, Michelle, would you like to basically tell us or give us a definition of trauma and then give us a definition of triggers?
Okay, so trauma, and I am giving you like three different definitions, but trauma can go really far. There is acute trauma, there is chronic trauma, and there is complex trauma. You can have one of them or you can have all of them. Acute trauma is a singular traumatic event that is brief in duration and narrowly focused, meaning it is only focused on one thing in nature, such as a car accident or an assault. Chronic trauma is repeated and prolonged, and some of those examples are domestic violence or abuse. Complex trauma, it describes both children in exposure to multiple traumatic events, often of an invasive interpersonal nature, um, and it is very wide. So it is a prolonged, so trigger. Sorry, because I wrote all of this down. There are different types of triggers. So I started looking into more triggers, and I was looking at mental health triggers. Triggers is something that affects your emotional state, often caused by extreme overwhelm or distress, right? A trigger, it affects your ability to remain present in the moment. So triggers actually cause you to daydream a lot, do a lot of fantasizing. Um, it may bring up specific thought patterns or influence your behavior. So people don't know that triggers can actually make you act on something that you don't even know is a trigger. And that's just a mental health trigger. So emotional triggers, which is also called a mental health trigger, or psychological triggers, are things, memories, objects, or people. They spark intense negative emotions. This change in emotions can be abrupt. In most cases, it will feel more severe than um, sometimes you can react more than what the trigger is really called for. Like mentally, uh, it may not be all of that. Like somebody can step on your foot, something like that. But it may be a trigger for you of someone running over your foot with a car. I'm just giving like a little example. So if someone steps on your foot, you can't equate that to somebody running over your foot with a car, but because it's a trigger, you may react differently or overreact is the better word. Um, so, in essence, a trigger is a painful memory. It causes a painful memory to resurface. It can be any sensory of reminder of a traumatic event. It's a sound, sight, smell, physical sensation, or even a time of day or season. So, um, uh, triggers is something that you're like, how do I smell that? How do I? Why does that sound make me do things? Like a lot of people don't understand that it is so many things that can make you um, be set off. You wonder, well, how did they get like that? They were so quiet, and then all of a sudden they just blew up. You don't know what a person's triggers are. So it's very sensitive. It's a very sensitive topic. I hope I answered uh, what you asked.
Yes, ma'am. You did answer. It kind of broke up a little bit when you was talking about the triggers, but they'll get the information as the more we keep going. You hit so many points, and we don't have all day for this session.
Yeah, but I think it's a good place for us to start is what made you address triggers and traumas?
Yeah.
And present what you've learned to the world.
Great question. Okay.
Well,
So
look like we lost her, but she should be right back. We're working on that internet connection. So, well, in the meantime, we can talk about what she went over so far. So, I didn't catch the first one, but it was chronic, complex,
acute was the first one.
Yes.
Chronic and complex.
And the one that stood out to me the most was complex, dealing with children and multiple traumatic events like that. I feel like
that's like,
is that not the majority of
life
Americans?
Yes, but I don't think they realize what it is. I know I didn't realize what it was.
What? Trauma?
Yeah, the acute, like just the different parts, the acute, the complex, the triggers. No, the acute, the complex, and what was the other one?
Chronic.
So that long term.
Well,
yeah, the long term. I didn't realize what that was. I think she's on now. Hey, Nikki.
Hey.
We was trying to like recap what you said.
Yeah, while you were taking a break.
So we went over
acute, chronic, and complex traumas.
Yeah.
But I was also saying while you're getting situated that the complex one, as far as the subject matter of being children, stood out to me because I think, yes, hello.
Can you hear us?
The complex one, dealing with children, stood out to me mostly. I don't know, maybe because I have a background in education, but just growing up, I guess, in the generation that we grew up in, and the I guess different regions that we grew up in, I feel like it established itself in our life as normal.
Yes.
And a lot of our generations, and I'm talking maybe 35 and up. Well, I can't say and up because 70-year-old is different than a 35-year-old, but you know what I mean, audience. That we have normalized this complex trauma specifically, because what we were exposed to a lot of quote unquote adult subject matters. And but we also had the, I guess, fortunate and unfortunate maturity level where we stayed out of quote unquote grown folks business, but we still saw a front seat. We had a front seat of grown folks business, and how that manifested and how that actualized in our home environment and outside of our home environment, as far as like extended family members. So the amount of things that we saw that were just jacked up as a generation, I feel like we normalized that and have not put a trauma label on it.
Right. Yeah. And that could go from minimal things to major things. Mm-hmm. And then I think that's why some people, well, again, Michelle can kind of go into that, but I believe that's also why there's so many people walking around here. I like to say, because I'm in the healthcare field, it's like mental illness is real. People walking around that don't know that they have an illness. And because, especially in the African American community, it's like taboo to talk about therapy, counseling, and just to get help outside of family or outside of the elders or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you are supposed to, what goes on in this house stays in this house.
Suck it up.
Suck it up. What other things that, I mean, it's like so
stay out of grown folks' business.
Oh, even for dudes, for men, it's like men don't cry. It's like, why don't they cry? Boys grow into men, okay, who just don't cry or show their emotions. And I just really believe that a lot of that starts out as something that they didn't know that they were implementing into or infiltrating, because it can come from them and just infiltrate it to the bloodline, or it's something that they were taught because they were never taught, or their parents, it was never broken off of their parents. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely generational, it's definitely cultural, it's definitely environmental, you know, all of the buzzwords y'all want to say, you know what I mean? So I really, really appreciate talking about this, because I really want more people to understand that some things, it may not have started off as a fault or your fault per se, but it's definitely your responsibility to break or get out of that cycle of trauma and recognizing your triggers. And here I am taking over again. So yes, I want to throw this back out to you, Michelle.
I want to say something. I want to say something to that. So when you that last part about saying it's not your fault, which it's not, but when you have to, I think sometimes when you are in that place of blame and you know it's not your fault, but then it takes courage to actually have to be responsible enough to take care of you and actually find the help that you need. And that takes a lot of courage, because it's not your fault. But now it takes courage for you to recognize that there is something wrong. There's something wrong, and that and why I need to do it, as opposed to when I need to do it, are the questions you need to ask. The why is because you want to be better, you want to be healed. When is now, you know, because it's nothing's going to get better. And I think a lot of people, and I was one of those people, a lot of people say, if I act like it's not there, or if the body, if the mind doesn't remember, the conscious mind, I mean, not the subconscious, but if the conscious mind is not bringing it before you every day, it's like, then I don't have to be responsible for it. So no, it's not your fault, but you still have to take the responsibility for you, because them people that did whatever they did to you, most times they don't remember. Believe it or not, most times people do not remember the stuff that they inflict on you. And most times you're the one carrying all of the weight and the hurt and the pain. And those people are moving on with their lives. You know what I'm saying? So it takes courage. It takes honesty. It takes looking in the mirror. And then, you know, my favorite word, investigation of what you need to see within you. You know, because triggers, you know, especially complex trauma. I was listening to Keisha, and complex trauma is like, you know, that is a prolonged a period of time. And when I was looking through those, I realized that I went through chronic and complex trauma on different levels, you know, different areas of my life. And when you think about that, now you have to decide, when am I going to accept the fact that this happened to me, so that I can deal with it? And how do I get the help that I need? You know what I'm saying? So the other, you know, to not fast forward, but the other thing that we do. We hide behind church. We hide behind the Bible. We hide behind Jesus will fix it. Well, Jesus will fix it, but Jesus also needs you to admit that you have a problem, because Jesus can't fix nothing that you don't admit to. So we hide behind that. We hide behind our Bible. We hide behind the shout. I told y'all before, I used to hide in church. I used to hide and wish I could stay in church, because I knew that when I went home, I would have to experience that pain. But when I was in church and I was feeling good, I just felt God, but I felt safe in church, but I didn't feel safe at home. And God is not just God in church, He's God everywhere. So I had to introduce that, because um, I believe that most of the hurting, the worst hurts or hurting are in the church, because they have not gotten to the point where they have accepted the fact that, yes, I am hurt. Yes, I do have trauma. Yes, there are triggers, and no, I don't know what to do about it. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I agree. And that was literally what I was going to segue into. And I just want to let you know that there's some kind of like static. I'm not sure. Maybe there's
There's something
something
up against your
up against your
microphone.
microphone that's vibrating. But
It's like staticky a little bit.
yeah, like I wanted to first dive into the
You're on
definitions
mute now.
really good. Um, about that acute, complex, and chronic. Like that's so much you can unpack. I think that we did like you did a good job with explaining what it is. But I just kind of want to get more deep into it. And I want to also ask you the question. I'll pose the question of, because I do want to get into the church hurt, because I believe that we do, especially again, African Americans, we do have a lot of that, or a lot of people experiencing that. And so, you know, the difference between church hurt, people not being emotionally intelligent or mature, and calling it church hurt, are really being hurt by the church. And you know what I'm saying? And then what are some examples to explain the difference, so people can see, understand which is which? Is that something that, did I make myself? Like, am I?
I know, but the diagrams from your hands, I felt like further explained, what you was really trying to say.
You know
because
what?
I was, she can't help it. So you're asking, because I know that sometimes people say church hurt. They
Yeah.
say, "Oh, you're hurt by the church," and you were just hurt because you couldn't sit where you wanted to sit. That those are people there. You have those people, but church hurt is this, and I'm going. I have walked into church, right? And someone has walked up to me and has said the most craziest things to me. And I'm thinking to myself, if I was where I was 10 years ago, I would have went outside and never came back. You know what I'm saying? I think sometimes people look at church hurt as um like somebody did something major, but a lot of times church hurt is just not paying attention to what you say to people when they walk in the door, or how you have a conversation with people, or how you relate to people because you know them. A long time ago, the Lord brought to my attention, and through my son, mind you, uh, just because someone is close to you doesn't mean you get to talk to them any old kind of way. And I think sometimes in relationships, because we are so close knit in church and we're so, family, we feel like we could just talk to any people any old kind of way. We don't know their triggers. We don't know the trauma that they dealt with in the past. And we just do things because we're family, right? And we think it's okay. And my son taught me, just because I'm your son doesn't mean it's okay to do this or say that to me. And it's not like I was abusing him mentally or emotionally, but there was some things he's like, "Mommy, can you say please?" And I was like, "I ain't got to say please. I'm your mother." He said, "Yeah, you do, because you make me say please." You know what I'm saying? And so something as simple as that. So let's start there. Let's start with, when people walk into the churches, "Hi, how was your week?" Because you don't know how that person's week was. You don't know what they endured. And so me myself, besides experiencing the church of being a PK kid, the responsibility of having to be saved, you know what I'm saying, and be perfect, because I was in the forefront, was very much so a hassle for me, and God helped me. I got pregnant out of wedlock. So, that was a big blow up. That was like, okay, you got pregnant. So, what that say about her. So I got many things said to me. When I found out I was pregnant, I came back to church. Someone told me I ruined my life. Someone told me that I went to college just to get pregnant. You understand what I'm saying? These are the type of things that people say to you. And they think because they're older and because they know more that they can just say whatever they want. And here I was, scared out of my mind and already feeling that guilt and shame of being pregnant out of wedlock. And here you come telling me I've ruined my life. I carried that for years. So church hurt. You know what I'm saying? Church hurt. That was church hurt. That was from somebody that was a leader. You know what I'm saying? So, how we deal with teenagers, how we deal with them when they're going through their process and they come into church and they may look a little weird to you. They may have, certain type of makeup on. You know how we were when we were teenagers. How did we wear our makeup? What kind of clothes did we wear? And it's sort of kind of going back to thinking about where you were when you were younger and being careful that you don't say just anything you want because they're a teenager or if you know their past. It's so many things that we have to be conscious of when we are dealing with people in church. And I'm not just talking about unsaved people. We'll talk about that too. But I'm talking about people that grew up in the church. And because we have relationship, we just think that it's okay to hurt people's feelings. I've seen my nieces get hurt in church. I've seen my son get hurt in church. I've been hurt in church. My sisters have been hurt in church because somebody thought because they were older, they could just say what they want to say, do what they want to do. So church hurt goes beyond I didn't get to sit in my favorite seat or the pastor didn't call on me. You know what I'm saying? That's hurtful. Could be to somebody that probably had some kind of trauma that was connected to that. But yeah, you gotta have discernment. Stop just opening up your mouth saying anything to people. You don't know, what people deal with. So this is a very sensitive topic for me when it comes to teenagers. I really cry out for teenagers and I'm really careful with people. You know what I'm saying? When I'm talking to them because you don't know what people go through, and you hurt people and you put the name of God on it, or you say I'm more mature than you, or you say I'm more spiritual than you. So I can say so my response is if you are more spiritual and you are older than me, then maybe you should talk to God and ask him how you should be talking to me. You know what I'm saying? Did I answer your question?
Yes. The word that stood out to me and what all that you said was respect. Your son was asking you to respect him like you taught him to respect you.
People and other people.
And I used to work in early childhood. And so I would try to explain to people like infants require respect too. And they like, what? I'm like, yeah, a 3-month-old, a 4-month-old, a 6-month-old, like they're already who they are. They have their personality. Like, and people would think I was crazy. And I'm like, this particular little John got a little anger issue now, you got to deal with him a certain way. They like, how you know they have emotions. They are who they are. Right.
Right.
There's a difference between an infant who is chill. Like, I know you're going to come feed me. It's been 2 hours and 45 minutes. I know that bottle coming. I ain't tripping. And then the other infant, like, and why? It's time to eat. Like, everybody has their own personality, right? So when you progress, and it's the toddler, the 2-year-old room, a preschooler, a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, a kindergartner, just because you're the teacher, just because you're the teacher assistant, just because you're a parent volunteering in the classroom,
in authority,
doesn't mean you can disrespect this child. This child got rights. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Same thing in the church is what I think, that's the word that glared out to me. Because they're older, because they've been saved longer, right? They think that they can talk to people any kind of way. But you don't talk to people any kind of way on your job.
Sure don't.
Because then you're gonna get what? Fired. Right? So how does God want you to respect authority or behave in a manner that is pleasing to him at work? But you can just act any kind of way in church and it's okay because it has a cross on the building.
Right. And then put God's name on it.
Right.
And that kind of segues too into the leadership, roles of leadership you put down here that you want to talk about, because I do think that's it's all kind of words that's coming to my head: anointing, gift, privilege, like to be in leadership, to be over people. It's like to be over people and you traumatized, to be over people and you are triggered, to be, you know what I mean? To be over people and you are the leader. Not saying that you're not anointed, not saying that you're not gifted, not saying that you was not supposed to, not called, because you know I got to find a church verbiage here. Not that you're not called to be the leader of, or pastor of, or shepherd of, or whatsoever other word for. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that you're not that. However, you still have to do the work. Like, I'm not sure if the gap is us as human beings, because we have been called and anointed to be this, that we think that the work is done on ourselves, or that we rely on spiritual endowment that just manifests itself from heaven and you just don't have to do the work.
Like the anointing is the cleansing. The anointing has cleansed everything away and you perfect.
You're right. That you didn't experience trauma when you was young, that you didn't experience, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what it is about leadership. And I don't know, Michelle, are you still there? Because you look frozen.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? Okay. Yes, no.
Well, she got to look like she understands where you're going with this. So
that's my question.
Yeah.
It's like, that's my question. I can see you now. That's my question, about like, what is that? How can we bridge that gap? How can we, I feel like I probably know my answer to my own question, but it's just like, what is happening in our leadership where you just, I don't know. It goes in and ties into y'all saying that, people just doing what they want to do. We use examples of teachers and, just being with children, but it's all the same in leadership in corporate America, in church, just in life, entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs are leaders. And that's, for me, that's where my thing is. 4-year-olds, elderly, and entrepreneurs. Okay. So it's like, what is happening? And I just want you to just speak to that. What did you like looking at?
That's a 17-minute question. What?
She got it. I'm talking to Michelle. Thank you.
That's so crazy. I think most of the time people confuse anointing with healing.
Yes.
So anointing just means to be saved, right? So that doesn't mean that being anointed doesn't mean that I get to do what I want to do. When you are anointed, can y'all hear me? Y'all can hear me? When you are anointed, it actually holds you more responsible for what you need to do. Meaning, I'm anointed to do a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that I'm healed, right? Doesn't mean that I'm healed. And I was just talking to my son about this yesterday. When you are in leadership, there's a few things that come with that. Like, you feel entitled. You can feel entitled to respect. I think sometimes when you are a leader, some leaders feel like they don't have to give the same respect. That's not every leader, but you got a lot of leaders that say, well, I'm the pastor. You're supposed to respect me, but they don't respect you. And then respect is like a curse word to them. It's like, what you mean respect? Yeah, respect. Like, care about my feelings. Just because you're my leader doesn't mean you don't care about my feelings. Me being a boss, me being an entrepreneur, care about other people's feelings. So I think the problem is that we confuse the leadership, what I'm led to do and how I and my character are two different things. Okay, I can pastor a church, but if I don't have character, it doesn't matter that I have the gift to be a pastor. My character needs to be together. I need to work on my character, and it doesn't matter how long I've been saved. My character still needs to be called to order every single day. You understand what I'm saying? And so sometimes I talk about entitlement a lot. A lot of people feel entitled. Like I'm entitled to this because that's who I am. This is who I am. So you just respect me, because I'm entitled. I'll put that roles of leadership, parents, children obey your parents. We throw that to our kids, right? Children obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. But they don't talk about fathers provoke not your children to wrath. They don't talk about that part because that would mean that there's a responsibility that I have. You know what I'm saying? I have the responsibility to not provoke my child to do something that they're not supposed to do. So, roles of leadership, just because I'm in authority, this means that I have to be more responsible to be the first partaker of respect, and making sure that I don't make myself feel like I'm entitled to things. You know what I'm saying? Um, I have this saying like, just because you know me don't mean you need to know everything about me. Or just because you know me don't mean that you can say whatever you want to me. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be careful with how we, as leaders, convey the message of leadership. Does that make sense?
Yes,
You said so
ma'am.
many great things.
Yes,
The
you
word that
did.
popped up this time to me was boundaries. Like as a Christian, as a believer, when you're navigating the world, whether that's in church, whether you're under someone, it's okay to set your boundaries of respect. Like as you said, just there's an entitlement that comes with leadership, and if you are quote unquote under a leader or reporting to a leader, then you as an adult can set boundaries. Like, you've crossed the boundary. This is not okay with me. This is how I feel about it. Going forward, this is how I would like to interact. You know what I mean? Like, as adults, we got rights. Okay.
So silly.
In whatever arena, whatever room we're in, right? So that's excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much. I want to ask you this, and this might be coming out of left field. We're talking about traumas, we're talking about triggers, we're talking about how that relates to church hurt. We're talking about how that relates to work, how that relates to your job,
Leadership.
and different age groups, teenagers, and even infants. How have you, and maybe the people that you encountered or counseled, not specifically your personal situation, but overall in your experience, how does this come out in marriage?
Huh, it's big.
Yeah.
It's big. That's big in
Yeah.
marriage. It's big because marriage is the spot where most people take advantage of each other. You know what I'm saying? Um, it's important that we understand that just because he's my husband or I'm his wife doesn't mean that he gets to take advantage of me and use me. Um, we have to set boundaries for each other. We have to make sure that we are not using each other. Um, Ask, is this okay? I've had my husband say to me, don't volunteer me for nothing before you talk to me about it first. And I laugh because my heart and my husband's heart are two different things. Not that he's not a giving person, but when he don't feel like doing something, he be like, don't be telling people yes just because you could do it. Don't mean that I want to do it. You know what I mean? And he has that right. So I laugh because you got to be careful with imposing who you are on your spouse. So I'll be like, yeah, sure, no problem. He'd be like, no, we're not doing that. You know what I mean? So that's where we differ, but you have to respect that. It doesn't mean that he's a bad person. It just means that he don't like to say yes all the time. And me, sometimes I need to say no, and I don't. So he's the one. Don't bother, right? Don't volunteer me. So he's the one that actually helped me with a lot of things when it came to church, when it came to the kids. Um, he's like, okay, so we need to do it this way. And I'll be like, what? And then at first I was like fighting it. But after a while, it's kind of like, no, he's right. You need to listen. You know what I mean? Like, you have to develop, that's how you develop the relationship with each other, by setting boundaries, by respecting each other, and by listening and saying, okay, me and him are two different people, but he has a voice. And so do I. But my voice should not override his, and his voice shouldn't override mine. But we come to a compromise. Make sense?
Yes, it do.
Since we
Compromise.
segueing over here to the love area, for those that are listening in the audience, and for future when they see this, can we talk about dating and choosing a mate as it relates to trauma and triggers? And so we know, and I want to be a little bit specific here, and that
Thank you.
and that is how church teaches that we can do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens us, right? And we're supposed to accept each other and know that we're not perfect. However, when you're choosing a mate, how do you not over spiritualize the concepts that you learned in church about overcoming, and then knowingly selecting someone that has traumas and triggers, or maybe even addictions, gambling, pornography, alcoholism, just rage, things of that, like serious things? How do you not over spiritualize when you're selecting a mate, that Jesus will just wash it all away and it's okay because we're gonna overcome this together, as opposed to really just taking a pause and being like, you know what, I don't think I can choose this particular person because I don't see myself graced and mercified to deal with those set of issues. Is that fair to say? Like, how do you correlate it? How do you quantify it?
Right. So I always tell people, decide what the deal breaker is for yourself. That's the first thing. First of all, remember that you are both man and wife, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, or somebody that's interested in your in being together, right? So I want to be with him, but I'm learning that he has issues that I just don't want to deal with. You have that choice. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember
We're freezing again.
You're freezing.
You said I remember, and then it froze, so I'm not sure how far you got.
I
Okay, there we go.
remember, can you hear me? I
Yes.
remember dating someone, and I remember him being saved, right? And it wasn't a bad guy. It just, we weren't meant to be, because he had issues that I just wasn't willing to deal with. And I had the pressure of, oh, you should, because I think y'all would be good together. And in my mind, I'm going, nah, I don't think so. But that's my choice. Not allowing people to pressure you into marriage is the first thing. The second thing is,
You breaking up again.
Uh-oh, we need you to repeat the second one, Michelle. Sorry, you broke up.
The second one.
No, we can't hear you.
We need you to repeat the second. You still frozen.
Yeah. Now it's like a remix. Oh no.
We still singing. You still frozen. Oh my God.
Okay, so let's do point one.
Point one.
Yes.
Was
point
don't
one
let
was
people
don't let people pressure you. She's
you.
gonna be right back. She jumped to take a little break. She'll come right back.
Okay.
Don't let people pressure you into getting married.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And then before she said that, like
Christy.
the prerequisite, what? The remix. Oh no. Oh no.
Y'all hear me? I know. You
Put
heard
that
me.
on
Y'all
wax.
heard me going in and out.
Yes.
Yes.
You made a remix
Oh
of
my
it.
God.
Yeah.
Oh God. Is that what y'all are doing? Oh God.
Yeah.
So I don't know why my Wi-Fi is acting crazy today. That's a hot mess
Because they don't
this
want
is
this
important
message.
information. We getting all the
this
tea.
message.
We getting all the good stuff. So
so
dating and
the
choosing
second
someone. Yes.
right. So dating and choosing, and then making sure that you don't allow people to pressure you. Waiting. That's what I want to say. Waiting. Not rushing. Not rushing, okay? Looking at age, time. At one point in time, I was rushing like, oh, I need to be married by such and such time because I need to have kids by such and such time, and I need to do this by such and such time. And so when I realized that the man that was talking about marriage was not the man that God had for me, and God was showing me. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about it. God was showing me things that um, I knew I didn't want to deal with. And so when he showed that to me and other people were trying to push me into it, it was like, no, I can't do that. So when it comes to over spiritualizing things, right? This is what I say. God is a very practical God. God is a spirit, but he deals with us in practicality. We make God look like we make him look ignorant. He's not. He's all wisdom. You know what I'm saying? But we make God look like he just be sprinkling dust on people and just making them better. And then all of a sudden, voila, they're healed, delivered, and set free, and we marry, and now we're going to be perfect. No human is perfect, right? But you have to find the person that is perfect for you. Not perfect as a person, but perfect for you and can handle you and can bring you to your next level, and you can bring him to his next level. So, or vice versa, whatever the case may be. But when you're single and you're saying, I want to be married, I tell people write it down because I wrote mine down. I wrote mine down.
Or not going to do, or what you wanted.
I wrote down what I wanted. I wrote down what I wanted.
Now we got to pause right there because we got all types of haters out here in the world.
This is about healing from the past and recognizing triggers. This is not going into.
I know Miss 17-minute question ain't trying to tell me.
But it was all focused on healing
and
from your past trauma.
We're talking about traumas.
Okay.
You cut me off. I'm half for two sisters. Now, girl, I got rights. And see. Oh, but all the haters out there that say Michelle don't have no list. I just want the record to show that Michelle said she had a list.
I had a list.
And why was it important for you to have a list?
Because I didn't really know what I needed.
Okay.
I had to separate what I wanted and what I needed. So,
yeah.
I actually started talking to other people about it and, getting wisdom from people that were already married, people that had gone through things. And I sat at home and I had a journal and I wrote it down. I just wrote it down because
a need list.
I need what I needed, especially because of trauma. Right, because of the trauma that I dealt with, what type of man I needed. I needed somebody that was patient. I needed somebody that was not so abrupt and abusive. Like he couldn't be abusive to me because I had already experienced abuse. So I didn't need somebody like that. I needed somebody that was patient. I needed someone that was kind. I needed someone that was sweet. I needed someone that would make me laugh. Someone that was a big kid. I didn't need a mean, you know what I'm saying, person. So you have to look at what you've been through, and then you can easily scratch off what you don't need.
Exactly. But that also means that you need to know yourself. But that's a whole nother conversation. That's what I'm saying. I don't want it to go into.
Don't you worry. We flowing here. Don't you
fret.
Okay.
So
that last sentence. You have to know what you've been through to know what you need. And I'm summarizing. That's great.
Yeah. So trauma, um, if you don't deal with trauma, so we staying on topic so that Melissa don't kill us. If you don't,
Yeah.
if you don't know your trauma, and if you don't, and I'm not gonna say your trauma, but the trauma that you have experienced, if you don't recognize it, if you don't look at it, if you don't investigate it, if you don't, you can marry the wrong person because you don't know how you are. And then what happens is when you get married to the wrong person, that stuff comes up. Those triggers that we've been talking about, they come up in marriage because marriage is all about triggers, dude. And if you don't know how to handle the things that you have endured, you will either get killed or kill someone because you married somebody that doesn't understand you and you don't understand yourself. So you're in denial of what you've really gone through. You you accuse him of things that probably never happened, but because you got trauma and triggers that you never dealt with, now he's become your target, right? And now you become his target because maybe he don't know who he is. Because most times when you have undealt with trauma, you marry somebody that has undealt with trauma. It's very rare. It does happen, but it's very rare that you marry somebody that is all the way healed and you got undealt with trauma. It's very, very rare. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's ooh,
Yeah, that's a whole word.
ooh.
Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
part two.
That's part
That's
two.
part two. I
I
feel
just
like
want you to know that we'll be back for part two.
we do. We need to.
Okay.
But I was thinking to myself, this is getting so good to me that I was thinking to myself, oh, I need to watch this recording later. I forgot I'm half of the host. Like
Correct.
I have access to it. I'm like, listen, this need to have a price tag on it. You understand me? This is so valuable. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Yes.
Thank you.
And before, because I know we kind of reaching the hour mark, you mentioned earlier, like the whole thing about marrying triggers and stuff. Oh my gosh. And I was going to ask you, like marriage, what would marriage be considered? Acute, complex, chronic? Like what kind of trauma? Like marriage shouldn't be trauma, but if you are already traumatized going into a marriage, so it just becomes what you would fall under. You know what I'm
It
saying?
would
Your
call
trauma.
it, yeah, it's like two of them. It's chronic and complex because it is prolonged, right? And then it is a series and multiple traumatic events because if you marry someone and you have undealt with trauma, it is a continual thing. So you are in a marriage and now y'all are both traumatizing each other even more. You know, that's why it is imperative that when you are single that you search out yourself and make sure that you are being made whole. I'm not saying that you walk around. To me, healthy is this: recognizing my triggers. That's right, Mark. When you marry a person, you are marrying the trauma as well. That's right, Mark. But so when you are single, when you are single, it's important to it's important to understand and recognize the trauma that you've endured, right? And when you recognize the trauma that you've endured, you have to understand the triggers that happen. Doesn't mean that you're going to be totally okay, but at least when you recognize the triggers, you'll know what not to do or let him know what not to do in order to put you in another space because he's the one that you're around every day. You know what I'm saying? And he's the one or she's the one that is y'all are back and forth with each other. So you have those conversations when listen, this triggers me, so please don't do that. And then sometimes in marriage, some husbands and wives do it just to piss each other off,
Yep.
and that's another
Mhm.
story. So you have those different things. So um recognizing that there's, and that's what we want to do. We want people we want teenagers, we want children, we want adults. Recognize that you have experienced some type of trauma, but you need to find out which one it was, and not only get therapy, because therapy is great. Oh my God, it's great. But therapy is just the surface. It brings things to the surface, right? Then you have to, I say, get a Christian counselor to show you how to apply the word to your life and seek God. So you got three different things you got to do. You got to go to therapy. You need to get Christian counseling Seek God for yourself, and then get around people that can help you. Connect with people
Or
that can
network.
pour into you. You know what I'm saying? Um, you can't do this alone. So when people try to say, "Well, I'm over it," I just let it go. You didn't just let it go because your body hasn't let it go. So I read this book called "The Body Keeps the Score," and it was talking about how your body reacts and responds to things that you subconsciously or consciously don't know is a trigger. But your body is just constantly responding. It can respond through sickness. It can respond through emotional outbursts. It can respond through anger. It can respond through attacking someone, being aggressive, sarcasm, nitpicking, micromanaging. So these things are like these things are it's endless. The list is endless. So if you don't deal with trauma, don't even think about getting married. Don't even think about it, because you're gonna destroy somebody else's life. You know, you know.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Listen, that's a good word. Okay.
Okay, so this is
Oh, you got another question?
no. I wanna pause here and say, Michelle, this again, this is amazing. You have a wealth of knowledge, and it's coming from an authentic, spiritually discerning place.
Yeah.
And I think it is so imperative that people know how to reach you. And me and Melissa can vouch that this is not a person who is talking to you that does not know what she's talking about. She's done the work, and now she is at a point where she can help others. And so, how can people reach out to you? Are you working on a course? Are you working on a program? How can people kind of just start working with you and processing this and working through this with your help?
Yes, so I could be reached by email, Michelle Johnson 1649 at yahoo.com. Also, Michelle's Worship on Instagram. You can DM me, and we can further discuss. And we do have a course that we are working on. I'm working on trauma and triggers, specifically for uh, people that have dealt with molestation, miscarriages, abuse, church hurts, those types of things. We want to deal with those types, because those are the things that um, I always say my convicted place. Those are my convicted places. Those are the places that um, I want I want to help, because it's so many people that are still not dealing with those kinds of things. I was having a conversation, and it was brought up again about unhealed, undealt with trauma of molestation, and people. It hurts so many people. It don't just hurt the person that was molested. It hurts the people that were connected to that person. So everybody gets affected by it. So yes, the course is coming out. I'm praying that it'll be out before the year is out, and you guys will get more information on that. But if you want to have a conversation and sessions to deal with undealt with trauma, yes, please email me. Serious inquiries only, please. This is some serious stuff, and I believe that I'm the voice, one of the voices for this.
Absolutely, I agree. Absolutely. There are resources out there, as we know. There's books, there are church groups, maybe. There's the prayer line. But I feel like the realness that's needed is you're exhibiting that, right? We're not sugarcoating anything. We're not throwing anything under the rug. We're laying it all out in truth with God's grace, right? Because we know we already have a solution, and that's God, our relationship with God, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit. And we know that we can overcome, but just to close the door on even trying is what most of us is doing by denying it, right?
Mm.
And I think on your platform, you're clearly saying it's like a nurturing spirit that comes through with you, and you encourage people to share because you're warm, you're inviting, and you're not going to lie to them. You know what I mean? And it's all done with love and extra care. And I want to just thank God for you and just thank God for you coming on this platform today. And we're just grateful that we can even just share you
Amen.
with, whomever we can share it with. So thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. All right.
Amen.
Okay, so I do want to say thank you for our sponsor, Corey Gums of Black Podcasters, Black Podcasters Association. He's giving away, I want to say 60 days, 90 days for your free trial. And that website is www.getbpa, which is Black Podcasters Association.com, and register for your free trial. So yes, we want to thank you and thank you for our sponsors. We new to this sponsorship thing, so I just want to remember to say that, say thank you for sponsoring us. And Nikki, Michelle, thank you so much again. I piggyback off my sister to just thank you for coming up here. This is like really, it's not only interesting and just informational, but it's definitely needed.
It could be life-changing. All of these nuggets that were shared today, a person can take those nuggets that you gave them today and start their healing and start their process and start telling themselves the truth about their past traumas, about their triggers, and start to actually work on it. So absolutely great information, guys. If you're now tuning in, please look at the whole entire broadcast, even with the remixing, okay, of the internet going in and out. We still got some good information through.
Yes, we did. And so, and there definitely will be a part 2 because I have a list of questions that I didn't get to, that I would like to get to for people, because I think it's very much needed. And I just like some of the triggers. I feel like we do need to still kind of like talk about the triggers thing, because you mentioned like addictions and stuff like that. I forgot, like pornography or whatever. It's like, are triggers addictions? Or are they symptoms of triggers? You see what I'm saying? Like, so I really want to get specific and help people, because I think that that's where, clarity is helpful. That comes with wisdom, so we can apply, what we learn. You know what I mean? If you really want to help.
That's good. I think this definitely symptoms of, but I ain't no expert.
Right.
No, but I was going to tell you, I believe that addictions are a branch. They're just a branch. They're just a branch of what's actually going on. So I don't know. It could be a big branch, a little branch, but most people look at addictions like, oh, they just doing this, they doing that. But there's a deeper problem.
There's a reason.
That's just that's just their response to what they've been through. And they may not even know why they do what they do. Most people don't. Most people just look at it like, that's just me. That's just how I am. That's just my personality. Love you, Netta. That's just my personality. But it's not. It's actually something deeper. And I think, I appreciate y'all for even having me on here, but it's that part about doing the work that people don't want to do the work of getting healed. People don't want to, and it hurts to bring up the past. It does. It hurts to heal. And that sounds weird, but it does hurt to heal, because now you got to revisit. Right. They don't remember. Right. They don't remember. So it hurts to heal. It hurts to heal. But once you do the healing, so once you start the process, it gets better. It doesn't get easier, but it gets better.
Right. Right.
And because we have one life, why not live it as free as possible?
Yeah.
But we have to work that freedom out practically.
We do. It's work. And so part 2, we got to talk about it. We got to talk about grieving too, because I really believe that that's also tied to it, and I want to dig more into the single life and marriage. Like, it's just so much we need to unpack. So and if we keep talking, we're gonna keep talking.
And
See, she like,
no, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying, and for real, like we got 20 ands. We need to add
it's
part
so
2.
much to it. Yes, it's so much.
is. So
Yeah.
I just really and so yes, thank you, and yes, thank you, Netta, thank you all the people who are watching, Mark and
Yes, and participating in
Mommy
the comments.
Lois.
Thank you.
Yes, we love you all too, and this is our pleasure because
Yes.
again, we ain't never afraid. Okay, we ain't never afraid. Okay, of doing the work that we were called to do, and that sometimes is the hard work. And I, for me, he made me who I am, how I am for this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not afraid to do what he told me to do, first of all. And secondly, to bring people up here who's also trying.
I should say she ain't never scared. I got lit. I'll talk back. Go ahead. But she's the older, wiser one. I need her in my life.
So we are doing our work. So
Yes.
this is much, you all's platform as well, because
Absolutely.
we all need each other.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So
community.
Yes, great word. So yes, there are so many parts, and we just want to do our part.
Yes.
To make sure that your voice and your information and who you're assigned to reach,
yes.
you reach.
Yes.
Know, and whether he's using us, our platform, or anybody else's, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So yeah, I just want to say that. So thank you very much for coming up here, being bold and courageous enough to speak,
and gentle enough.
And gentle.
Yes.
That's a very hard thing to do.
Absolutely.
That's anointing. Okay.
Praise God.
So, listen. So, thank you so much, Michelle. Stay on with us. We're going to pretty much end this, guys. Thank you so much, guys. I know it's in the middle of the day. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Thank
on
you for right on a month.
We serious out here. We serious out here.
So thank you. We appreciate you. Thank you for supporting Two Sisters Podcast. And we love you all. All right.
Love you all.
Thank you for listening to the Two Sisters Podcast, where we hope to encourage you on your journey of transformation and healing while having fun along the way. Follow us on IG and Twitter. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. It's available on all major podcast providers. Just search for Two Sisters Podcast. Till next time.